Visitor Center, and this is one of our weekly videos that we're doing so we can bring the nature of the center to you guys. This is Atticus. He is a great horned owl, and some of you may have even met him. He travels to schools and does education programs, so he may look a little familiar. Today we are going to show you what it takes for us to bring out one of our birds. So as you can see right now, he doesn't have any equipment on. All he has on are little anklets. We do not keep any equipment on them while they're in their enclosures. So the first thing we do is put on something called a jess. And this is just a little piece of rope with a knot on the end, and it's got a little bit of a circle in it. So just like bringing your dog out for a walk, you put it on a leash. These jesses and our leash are just merely a safety precaution. I don't want my dog to run away, and I don't want my bird to fly away. So in no way is this a training tool that we use here. It's simply for their safety. I don't know if you guys can hear him. He's making little chirping sounds as he's eating. You might be able to hear him as I get him out. So the first thing we do is take this in our hand. We don't want to pull on the anklet. We don't want to pinch him. We don't want to make too much movement, so we go really slowly. So the first thing I'll do is I'll reach behind with my pinky.
Carol, I can talk a little bit
yeah.
while you're doing that. Sometimes it's hard to talk and focus on
Good.
training. Doing all of that all at once just can be a challenge. You really want to put all your focus on the animals when we're training them. So like Carol said,
Good.
Our jesses and our leash system that we use on our birds, they're used on some of our ambassadors, especially the ones that go out to do outreach programs. It's just a way that we use for our birds to have a safety tool, a backup. So our goal is to pretend like that equipment's not even there. So we work really hard on making our glove a very reinforcing, empowering space for them to be, by adding a lot of positive reinforcement, a lot of treats for them to eat. And if you guys have any questions during this whole process, feel free to just ask and I can read them aloud and we'll do our best to answer. So Carol is going to work on getting him out. She is now adding a swivel, which basically just keeps those jesses from getting tangled up, and a little leash, which she's going to add there. And this will enable her to take him out of the enclosure. If you guys have ever been to our bird show, you'll notice that our birds during that show do not wear any equipment at all. They just wear a little tracking device. And so if they jump up in a tree or decide to go somewhere else, we can track them with our cell phone, which is pretty cool. It's crazy how far technology has come, especially doing things like this. And we're able to bring you guys some birds while you're sitting at home on your couch, hopefully.
All right, so I have wrapped the leash around my fingers, just as another safety. All right, I'm gonna take him down. Atticus. So again, if he was showing me signs that maybe he was uncomfortable, we wouldn't bring him out. He has the choice. He was positive reinforcement training here, so he has the choice to come out. He made the choice to give up on my glove today, and we can come out. So as I'm feeding him, you can see his nictitating membrane. It is a clear film that goes over his eyes while he eats. You guys can see that film. That's to protect his eyes, because his food might be still alive, it might be dirty. Good. And he wants to protect those valuable eyes. So he's called the great horned owl, but he has tufts on top of his ears. Those are not horns. They are not even ears. They're just feathers used in communication. So I think the coolest thing about owls is their feet. They have something called zygodactyl feet, which means they have 2 toes facing forward and 2 toes facing back, but they can also move that outer toe forward. So while he's perching, he will have 2 toes in front, 2 toes in back. That's the best way to perch. But if he was grabbing something, he would want those 3 toes in front to be able to have more gripping power.
If you guys have ever seen an osprey's feet, they do the same thing, and that just really enables them to have really great grip, especially with slippery fish. So these guys are the largest owls that we have here in the Carolinas. The ones we have here probably weigh between 3 and 4 pounds, and probably looking at him you would think he would weigh much more than that, but our birds, of course, have feathers that make them really lightweight. They have hollow bones, which is super cool. If you look in there at their bones, it actually looks a little bit like Swiss cheese. So they're not fully hollow.
Good.
But again, they have little holes in there that allow for them to be really light. They also do not have teeth. We don't realize how heavy our teeth are because we're on the ground all of the time. And they do not have bladders, so they don't have to hold a lot of water or anything in for long periods throughout the day. So if you guys notice, his eyes are this really bright yellow golden color. Oh,
Good.
He's really tuning into something that was going on down the trail. But those eyes mean that he is a crepuscular bird. So we typically think of owls being purely nocturnal. These guys would actually be up during dawn and dusk times. That's the best time to catch their food. We get a lot of questions with, why are our owls awake right now? And it's just something that they adapt to. We like to think of them taking more naps periodically throughout the day as opposed to sleeping for like 8 hours at a time like we do.
And he's got that beautiful facial disc that helps funnel in sound towards his ears. So even though their eyesight might not be very good, their hearing is what they rely on. Incredibly good hearing. Good.
Thank you guys who have donated. It was really awesome. We really appreciate it.
So if you're just tuning in, I'm Carol. I work here at the Carolina Raptor Center, and this is Atticus. He is a great horned owl. He is an ambassador, an education ambassador, and he often travels to schools, to programs to educate the public, and especially kids about how cool raptors are. He's very good at his job.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to type them in and we can answer them for you.
So he is eating today. Today is chicken day. So this morning I cut up little pieces of chick. He does get whole food throughout the week that he tears up and he eats the whole thing. When we train our birds, we want to use small pieces so we have more chances to reinforce for good behavior. So if you guys have ever heard of a pellet, you may have found them out in the wild. You may have dissected them in school. So these guys cannot digest the bone or hair of animals. So instead of, having it go through their digestive system, they will regurgitate those into a pellet. And you actually take them apart and reconstruct either a mouse or whatever they ate. So they do not digest bone or hair, which I think is pretty cool. A little gross, but cool.
I have a question. Who are his predators?
They don't really have very many predators because, again, they are awake at night when predators are low and their food source is high. I would say mostly their habitat being destroyed, so probably humans.
And Lauren said those are sweet little noises. Does he hoot a lot too?
He does hoot. Sometimes when he doesn't really want to come out, when he's saying I don't really want to come out, he'll start doing little chirps. Especially if I give him enrichment. I have plenty of enrichment. He loves shredding things up. When I get him enrichment, he gets very excited and he does little hoots. So you might have heard them in your backyard. So these guys are pretty common. And also the barred owl is very common. And they have two very distinct hoots. If you learn the difference, it's a fun way to be able to tell what's in your backyard. I'm glad you guys can hear him chirping.
That little chirping noise that you guys are hearing is typically something that you see in a a baby owl, and it's more of like a food begging noise. It's something they make to their parents to ask for food. So it's something that he just has kept throughout his adulthood. He just never really got rid of it.
Well, I'm going to show you guys how we take off equipment. So we're able to not have to keep equipment on our birds.
Just a little peep into what we're gonna give Atticus after. A lot of enrichment, very simple, newspaper ball. Then we have a book and a paper bag full of tissue paper. He really likes to shred things.
Yes. So all of our enclosures have what we call a keeper area. This is just a safety area where we can come in, where we can remove the bird from their home, kind of a neutral space. So we work really hard with our birds, getting them used to taking on and off equipment, so it is a positive experience for them. We reward for staying still, staying calm. Atticus is a pro. Oh, you're gonna poop.
I'll back away a little bit, make him a little bit more comfortable.
We do have nesting pairs of red-tailed hawks. Red-shouldered hawks around here that do put our birds a little bit on edge. Sorry, bud. Good. I usually just end up dropping the equipment. It's just easier for me instead of finding a hook. Just drop them.
Looks like he might go on his own in the enclosure.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and grab his enrichment. Sometimes he does carry the book around. I don't know if you guys can hear him hooting. This is something, his favorite are books. He will tear the whole thing up by the next day. Hi, Atticus. Even when I put him in a kennel and put newspaper on the bottom, he immediately goes down and starts shredding it. Enrichment is so important for our birds mentally, physically. It sometimes can even wear down their beaks if it gets too long. He likes to shred in private. All right, guys, I want to thank you for joining us here at the Carolina Raptor Center and taking time to meet my bird, Atticus. Thank you to those who have donated. We really appreciate your support, and we'll see you tomorrow at 11.